Hi guys, welcome to Green Bionomy. Today I'm doing some reflection on the projects I have here going on in Ouagadougou, in Burkina Faso, because I'm traveling back to Europe and I'm closing some of the projects, especially the ones concerning the Kratky method and growing lettuce. So I've been experimenting for the last 2-3 months with this method and the lettuce in this climate here, and I've made a couple of mistakes, actually a lot of mistakes, and did a lot of learnings. So I'm going to share that with you in this video, so you can learn from that and try to build up on the mistake I've made and not replicate them in your own systems. So I have my little list here and let's get started. So here are the systems. So if you've watched the video I had on my 2022 plant nursery, you probably saw a couple of these bottles, but I didn't really talk much about these because I was still starting out and I didn't analyze what I've done wrong or what was going right. But now I have a clear idea of what happened. And well, just to give you an overview, since it's the first time I do this method and grow this type of lettuce, so my goal was really to try and keep the maximum amount of plants alive and see how fast and how big they will grow in this particular climate, as well as with these systems. So I've made a lot of tweaks. So all of the systems are Kratky method. So that means that there is a little cup with the plant sitting in it, with some substrate around it to hold it straight, with water at the bottom, and the roots grow and go in the water. And normally this system, you're not supposed to add water at any moment, because as the water level go down, the roots will follow the water level and it will keep on drinking here. And here you will have an air pocket where the roots will also get their oxygen. The roots in the air pocket becomes air roots. So here the plant gets its oxygen, here it gets its water, and the roots grow at the same time as the water level go down. So it's a fairly simple one. I have other videos detailing how to set it up and what's the logic, the system behind it. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is really to see the practice and what happened. For example, this water level thing, there are a lot of little things that can go wrong. So now all of these systems are Kratky, but there are some differences since it was mainly me experimenting, so I tried different stuff. For example, here we have leafy lettuce, and here we start to have iceberg lettuce. Here it's also iceberg lettuce, and these two, this is rucola and this is iceberg lettuce too. I might make mistakes along the way with the variety, because sometimes I switch them up. I'm still not that used to their look, but usually the iceberg lettuce is more spiky on the ends, while the leafy, well, you see, I've mixed them up. So this is iceberg. This is iceberg because you can see it's like more spiky on the edge, and here it's more round. So these ones are the leafy ones, and these one are the iceberg ones. Okay. Well, this aside, it was not really the variety that mattered most, because I feel like they were quite close, but it's more the difference in substrates and the difference in the net cups. Because here you can see it's a water bottle, and I call these pure bottles because the Kratky system is made entirely with this one bottle. All right, where I made holes. I made holes at the top, and then I switched it and put it back on the bottom part. So with one bottle I have one Kratky system, but here it's the traditional net cup that you can see in hydroponics videos, or when you go in hydroponics stores and things like that. Also the difference in the substrate. So in some systems have the hydroton or clay pebbles, and some have the coco coir. So I wanted to see if there would be a difference in growth by using one system or another. Excuse the noise, we have the driveway right next to the house. So let's just jump straight into the different mistakes and things to try and avoid. The first big thing is to consider your climate and your variety, because as you can see, these lettuce, well, they're alive, but it's been like a month and a half, 2 months that they're like that. You can't really do a harvest with this kind of results. You're not going anywhere with that. They're small and they are falling. They really don't look happy, and I'm not happy with the way they grew, even though I was just like trying to learn about it, but I was expecting something a bit bigger, and I still don't know why they're falling over. And I think this is because these varieties, so the seeds, I got them in Germany, and when I was looking online, these are types of plants that grow in cold climates, so not really hot climates like we have here. For example, now here we are always in between 30 and 40, and the sun is pretty harsh. The air is very dry. There's no humidity, so I think the plants didn't like it at all. And if I give you like a quick example, this tomato plant, that's a seed from here. It didn't have any problem. I just put it in the Kratky system. It started growing. It was happy. Yeah, Hakuna Matata. But these guys, nah, I don't think they're made to be grown here. So I need to check which varieties to get here, or if people manage to grow these. So that's really the first thing. Because I've also set them up at someone else's place where they have more trees than we have here, and in their garden it's more cool. You have a microclimate because there's a lot of trees packed in a small space, and there the lettuce really grew faster. I think it reached like the bottom here, and it was like super large. I will include footage of these if I think of it. If I forget, well, you know, I forgot. But there the climate was better, and also it wasn't exposed to direct sunlight. It was okay with indirect sunlight, so with partial shading, and it actually grew well like that. But it was still falling on the side, so this part I don't know. So this is what I was telling you, that the climate, the temperature, the luminosity is very important, because these systems are as old as the one I was showing to you in the other location. And here you can see that there are many trees around, and there is this microclimate, and I think the humidity is higher, and there is the shade, and it's cooler during the day in this location. And you can see the difference in the size of the lettuce. So this is just extra recording that I made when I came here, just so you can compare and see the difference in the match between the variety and the climate the plant is in. Then the next biggest mistake I've made, so the second one, is with transplanting. So this is something to consider every time you do hydroponics, is actually the way you will germinate the seed, and then the way you will raise the seedling before transplanting it in its final system will matter a lot, because the plant basically will adapt to the condition in which you made it grow at the beginning. For example, these guys, so all of these guys, starting with this one, all of them, they're actually coming from this trail here. They're coming from this trail here, where I grew them in potting soil, and then I transplanted them in their Kratky system. Now, the transplant was direct, and what I did is I removed the soil before transplanting. So the part that I really got wrong is that I messed up a bit too much with their roots, and I basically gave them a really hard start, because by washing out the soil, by manipulating them so much, I shocked them, and they had this transplant shock, and for the first few weeks they were still just trying to adjust to the new system. So they lost a lot of time, and I think that's also why they are struggling generally to grow. Now the difference is with these two. So, well, this guy started dying, but he looked better before. But just in terms of the root development, so there's another mistake here. But will come to it. But in terms of the roots development, it had a better root system than the other guys here. You can see that there are much more roots, even though now they're starting to die, just in terms of the sheer length and the quantity of them. But these two, I didn't germinate them in the same way. I germinated them directly on top of the clay pebbles. So I just put the seeds on top of the clay pebble, and then I put them in a water. In a small cup, where I put the cup inside the cup with the water. So they basically germinated, and as seedlings, they grew directly in water on top of their clay pebbles. So what I did is I just took the cup and I changed the reservoir. So they were just in a smaller reservoir, and when they were big enough, when the roots were at the bottom of the net cup, I just took them and changed them. So I never really disturbed the plant. I just changed the reservoir. And also, even when they were seedlings, I started adding some nutrients in the water, so they already got used to receiving their nutrients, their nutrients from water, while the other ones, they grew up getting used to receive nutrients from the soil, and then they shifted to nutrients from water. And these guys grew much faster and much bigger than the others. It's a bit of a shame that they're in their end of life now, but again, just in terms of the roots, I think they even just in terms of the roots were much denser. But now you see the roots like that. That's related to another problem I have with these bottles and the clay pebble in general, is that I feel like in a water bottle like that, there is too much evaporation and there is not enough humidity that is trapped inside. So, okay, just to summarize, the first problem was the climate, so no match between the variety and the climate. The second problem was the way the plant was transplanted. So first, you should not disturb the plant when you transplant, and also when you germinate and grow the seedlings, it's better to get them used to receive nutrients from water. So already start to add nutrients in their water as soon as possible, even if it's like diluted at first, and then like slowly increase the strength. And it depends on how you're going to start them and the substrates you're going to use. But this is an area I still need to experiment and basically build up on these mistakes. Now the third problem I feel is that these systems don't have enough humidity, and because of that, the roots that are supposed to be in the air pockets and that are supposed to take in the oxygen cannot do that job, because they can do this job only when the humidity in the air pocket is high enough. But right now, because we have very dry climate, this affects the development of the plant and can end up killing it. So I feel like this is an issue. For example, for the other systems, I built up on the problems I had here. I choose something where you can properly close the lid, and you can see it's like if I touch the top of this here, it's humid. You see, it's like the air pocket is high, is saturated with water, and this is important in Kratky systems. Otherwise, your plant can have some problems taking in oxygen. So that's the third issue. So we saw the climate. So you need to have a match between the variety of your plant and the climate you're in. Then there is the transplanting. Then there is the lack of humidity in the air pocket. Now, the two other problems. So let's say the fourth one. I might be missing the count, but well, I'm not sure. But let's say the fourth one is again with the climate. Is that in Kratky you're supposed to respect a certain temperature. So you have a temperature range. I forgot what it is, but I think your water shouldn't go above 29 or 30 degrees Celsius. But just Google it. Ideal hydroponic temperature for your plants, and you'll find that range. And here the issue is that when there is the sunlight or even the ambient air, like right now it's what? Right now it's like something like 35. Yeah, the camera doesn't want to focus, but well, it's like something like 35. So even if there's no sun hitting the water, you end up with hot water, and this is also disturbing the growth of the plant. For example, even I had to put most of the plants here because on the other side where there was a lot of sunlight, when I came here, I arrived from Germany, so from Hamburg, and there, well, you don't have sunlight, like it's always gray. So I was like, okay, there's so much sunlight, that's great, I'm going to put all the plants there. And I did, and then some plants just started dying. They started to fry and they started to boil. The water just, that was just crazy. So I had to bring back the plants here where there is less sunlight, just for a few hours in the day, and then the sun goes on the other side. So that's another big consideration. So for that, you might need to invest in some shade clothes, or to get reservoirs that are like painted white. So this thing will be better if it was white. Or you can put some aluminiums around your reservoir to reflect the sunlight. Or you can have a bigger size. For example, this is 3.5 liter. I have a 30 liter reservoir back on the other side of the house. It's doing better. And also I've also been trying with clay jars. But this is for another video, because the clay jar is also, the solution becomes a problem. And yeah, so things to learn there. So you need to figure out a way to keep your water cool. So that's actually very important. This again depends on your climate. Or in summer, usually you'll have the hot temperature. So that's something to consider. And finally, for the fifth issue that I had, is the size of the reservoir itself. So this, in a way, is related to also, well, the temperature in the water, but it will influence how often you will need to top up your system. Because you see, in the Kratky method, normally, what is said in the literature, or usually what people say about Kratky, or even what I said about Kratky in some of my videos, is that you build up the system and then you can forget it. You don't need to do anything with it. Now the thing is that this is true only if you respect a certain size or certain dimension for your reservoir, because what will influence if you need to top up or if you can leave your system like that and forget it is how fast the water evaporates and how much does the plant will consume in terms of water every day. For example, here I have something like 1 liter, and because I have only 1 liter, I'll probably need to top up before these plants reach their maturation, because a lettuce plant, from what I saw online, needs around 3 to 4 liter, will consume 3 to 4 liter of water in its lifetime. And this also takes into consideration that some water will be lost to evaporation and also transpiration. Transpiration is when the water takes in, the plant takes in water and then it transpires it, just like you. Now, for that, so for the lettuce, if I really want to forget it, I will need to put the lettuce in something like this. This is 3.5 liter. I can set it up, and I know that in like 35 days, 40 days, the plant will be mature. There will still be some water at the bottom, but the roots will have grown with it, and I can come and harvest it, and then clean up the bucket, and then launch another system. But with these guys, if I leave them like that for 30 days or 40 days, with this climate, with the evaporation rate, because here it's the clay pebbles, even with the cocoa coir, it's often super dry. This climate is kind of hard, but it evaporates quite fast, and the plant also consumes the water, so it will evaporate much faster, and I will need to come and add some water in the reservoir if I don't want the plant to die. For example, this guy here, I added some water, I think 5 days ago. I think I did 2 top-ups for this one. First, the reservoir is smaller, but it's also, this plant is like, it consumes a lot of water, and 5 days ago the water was at like this level, so it was either I harvest or either I add some water. I could probably harvest it now, but you know, I just want to see how long it will go and how it will grow. Since it's the first time, I'm in observation mode basically. I just want to see what these guys do. That's my point now. So I added some water up to the mid level, and it was fine. But it's just that you should know that if you want your Kratsky system to really be set up and forget about it, you need to get the dimension right. That means you need to have enough water in your reservoir, so that like, you need to have enough water in your reservoir to cover the plant for the time it will take the plant to reach full maturity. So for example, for lettuce, that's something like 30 to 40 days. And you also need to take into account evaporation and transpiration. Yeah, but this is easily found online. Just type Kratsky water needs for lettuce or for tomato or things like this. Yeah, so that's pretty much it in terms of the mistakes. So I think the first really the big one was the climate. Then the second really big one is the transplanting. So how you germinate and grow your seedlings. It needs to be a smooth transition between germination, seedling, and then going into the final system. Then there was the lack of humidity in the air pocket, and finally the size of your reservoir, so that you minimize the need to top up the water every time. There was also the water heating, because you need to keep a certain temperature for your plants. So there you might need some shades, or the reservoir should be painted white and things like that. Now some extra things is, so if you want to top up, the thing to be careful with is, since I told you in the air pocket, you will start to have air roots. So now these roots here will be taking in oxygen. They are not drinking water anymore. So if you top up and you put the air roots in water, they will drown. That's the problem with Kratsky and topping up, is that once these roots spend enough time in air, so it should be a high humidity environment, which is not the case here because I have evaporation and dry climate. Because yeah, you see it's like too much evaporation, while here I have more surface blocking the evaporation. It just goes out from here. So once you're in these circumstances, you need to be careful of how you're going to top up. But then what is important is that even though you top up, even if you put some of the air roots in water, what is important is that there are still some air roots that are not in water. So what you should absolutely not do is, like, if I take this guy, for example, and I come and I put water all the way up here, like at the beginning when I set up the system, that might kill it. But last time when the water was here, I put the water level up to the middle. So maybe some of the roots here were air roots, but it was okay because it still have all this area to take in some oxygen. So that is what you need to consider when you top up. And something else that I haven't mentioned, because I didn't have a problem with that, is normally you should cover your reservoir like this to avoid algae growth, because when sunlight will hit your water, and if you have nutrients in them, some algae are going to start growing, and they're going to finish the nutrients that are supposed to be for your plants. So that's pretty much it for the Kratsky systems, all these experimentations. In terms of using different cups or these ones, I felt like, at least at the beginning, with these cups here, it was easier for the plants to go out and grow their roots because it's a flat surface. So it's a bit harder here because they usually try to go out from here, from this part here, and usually nothing is coming out from here. So I feel like it's better with this. And then from experimenting with coco coir and clay pebbles, I like clay pebbles better because the plant has an easier time growing its roots through it. With the coco coir, I feel like the plant is struggling all the time, and there's something weird with coco coir. I don't really like it anymore. Maybe it will change, but for this climate, I guess the coco coir will what is make more sense. But what I figured out is I put clay pebble at the bottom, so the roots don't have a trouble to grow, and I just add coco coir at the top like a mulch layer. So that's what I figured out for this system. Yeah, maybe I forgot something, but you know, I think I shared everything I learned here. So now the goal is to build up on that, and when I will be back in Hamburg in Germany, I will be trying again with the same varieties and try to set up some systems that will give me some lettuce I will be able to eat. Yeah, let's do this. All right guys, you also go and do some practice, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. There's one more issue that I forgot to mention, and I think it's actually very important, is you need to consider the shape or the structure of the roots of the plant that you're using in your Kratky system. Because for example, with the water bottles, they are very long, there is a lot of depth, while lettuce have shallow roots, so they don't really need to have that much depth. And actually I think it makes them struggle to be able to use the water, because they have to go in depth to get it, while they're not used to that. They like to have shallow roots. While I didn't have problem with the tomatoes, so I need to check to confirm, but I suppose that tomatoes don't have that much of a problem having roots that go in depth. So you need to also see what kind of roots the plant have. For example, I also grew some thyme in small water bottles, and I realized that the roots never actually grew tall enough to reach the water. So I guess there was like this limit to how long or elongated the roots could be. So some plants might need a reservoir that is more shallow and large, so that there is still enough water to withstand the time, so the lifetime of the plant, but it's not a tall reservoir. There's no depth, so that the roots can always easily find and consume the water. I think that was also one of the big mistakes. So the mismatch between the type of the plants and the dimension or the shape of the reservoir, based on how the roots are. Are they roots that are shallow? Are they roots that can grow in depth? So these are things to consider. Yeah, so that's an edit a few days after, because I didn't think about it when I was recording the video, but it's actually something important to consider. Hope it's helpful, and see you next time.